Hello everyone, welcome to Positivity Channel. My name is Sijia Lee. Today, we will delve into a classic work that cannot be ignored, Das Kapital. The nature and workings of capitalism in this book by Karl Marx. We'll share 50 key takeaways from Capital to help you better understand social and economic structures. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and let's explore the truth about capital together.
Das Kapital aims to reveal the nature of capitalist economy. In real history, this idea can be illustrated through the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century. The Industrial Revolution promoted the rise of capitalism. The transformation from handicraft industry to mechanical industry accelerated commodity production and emphasized the change in labor value. Marx first elaborated on the value theory of commodities. The discovery of gold in the United States in the late 19th century is an example. Increased gold supply led to inflation, revealing the relationship between currency and commodity values. He explored the relationship between labor value and exchange value. In the American South after the abolition of slavery, the reconfiguration of labor highlighted changes in labor value and social structure. Marx believed that the value of commodities comes from the use value of labor power. The British textile industry during industrialization demonstrated the key role of labor in production and provided an example of the creation of commodity value. The exchange of commodities in a capitalist economy leads to the production of surplus value. After the American Civil War, farmers' pursuit of labor during the abolition movement demonstrated the struggle for surplus value and social conflict. Surplus value is the basis of capitalist accumulation. The labor movement and trade union movement in the early 20th century reflected workers' dissatisfaction with the distribution of surplus value and formed the driving force for social change. Marx analyzed the labor process and value process in detail. Russia's October Revolution of 1917 was a reimagining of the capitalist labor process in an attempt to establish a socialist system. In capitalist production, there is an opposition between the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. The French Revolution of 1789 demonstrated the feudal system's opposition to the bourgeoisie and laid the foundation for the birth of modern capitalist society. Marx discussed commodity markets and the role of money. The Dutch tulip mania was a manic speculative bubble in the 17th century that highlighted speculation in currency and commodity markets. There are contradictions in a capitalist economy that lead to the periodic emergence of economic crises. The Wall Street stock market crash of 1929 led to the Great Depression and revealed the phenomenon of cyclical economic crises in capitalism. Capitalism, he believed, led to the alienation of labor. China's Cultural Revolution was a critique of capitalist alienation and attempted to solve the problem of labor alienation by redefining social relations. Marx analyzed the historical evolution of capitalist production relations. After the end of apartheid in South Africa, the reconstruction of capitalist production relations reflects the historical process of the evolution of social structure. There is a dynamic of class struggle in a capitalist economy. Brazil's land reform movement embodies farmers' struggle against land ownership in a capitalist economy and is a concrete manifestation of class struggle. Marx discussed the exploitation of workers by capitalists. The factory system of American industrial tycoons in the early 20th century revealed the exploitation of workers by capitalists, triggering the rise of the labor movement. Monopoly capitalism triggered structural changes in society. Germany's industrial mergers and cartel system triggered profound changes in the social and economic structure of the monopoly capitalist system formed in the early 20th century. The pursuit of profit drives the functioning of the capitalist system. Japan's economic miracle demonstrated the drive for profit that fueled the development of the capitalist system. He highlighted the destructive impact of capitalism on the environment. The economic rise of industrialized China at the end of the 20th century highlighted the negative impact of economic growth on environmental damage and called for attention to sustainable development. The capitalist economy is a system of constant revolution. Take the Russian October Revolution in the early 20th century as an example. Workers and peasants overthrew the Tsarist system and tried to establish a socialist system. This symbolized the revolutionary force within the capitalist system. Marx discussed the impact of increased productivity of labor on capitalism. The Industrial Revolution is a striking example. Through technological innovation and productivity improvements, it changed the mode of production and accelerated the development of the capitalist economy. Capitalism has promoted the rapid development of technology and industry. The industrialization of the United States in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, especially the rise of the automobile and electrical industries, demonstrated the role of capitalism in promoting technology and industry. Marx paid attention to the complexity of the relationship between money and capital. The Wall Street stock market crash of 1929 led to the Great Depression, revealed the fragility of the relationship between money and capital, and triggered a global economic crisis. Historical materialism runs through the entire capital. The Cold War after World War II compared the Soviet socialist system and the Western capitalist system was a comparative case of historical materialism in reality. Marx studied the market mechanism of capitalism. The oil crisis of the 1970s exposed the fragility of energy dependence in the capitalist market mechanism and triggered global inflation and economic turmoil. He describes the special nature of workers as commodities. The labor movement and trade union movement during the industrialization period, such as the American labor movement, were a struggle for workers' status and a re-understanding of the value of labor. There is a relationship between the economic base and the superstructure in the capitalist system. During the Cold War, the confrontation between the United States and the Soviet Union demonstrated the close relationship between the capitalist economy and the political and cultural superstructure. Marx discussed the nature and functions of money in detail. The introduction of the euro and the process of European integration are the evolution of currency in a capitalist economy, showing the complex relationship between currency and economic integration. The contradiction between consumption and production is an important feature of capitalist economy. The process of globalization from the late 20th century to the early 21st century, especially the rise of China, has shown the intricacies of production and consumption on a global scale. Private ownership in capitalist society is at the heart of the problem. India's independence movement and land reform policies attempted to solve the problem of private land, which was a challenge to private property in the rural economy. Marx analyzed the distribution of profit and surplus value. The issue of economic inequality in the United States, especially the controversies over the distribution of wealth and income in recent years, illustrates the unequal distribution of profits and surplus value in capitalism. He pointed out that the historical destiny of capitalism was the result of revolution. The Cuban Revolution was a capitalist, socialist-influenced revolution in Latin America that changed the political landscape of the region. The crisis of the capitalist economy is a manifestation of its inherent contradictions. The 2008 global financial crisis was a severe economic crisis caused by the inherent contradictions of capitalism, which triggered global financial turmoil. Marx emphasized the historical limits of capitalism. The disintegration of the former Soviet Union was a historical node in the competition between capitalism and socialism, highlighting the interaction and limitations of the capitalist and socialist systems. Capitalism forms international economic connections through globalization. The economic rise of the four Asian tigers and the formation of global supply chains demonstrate the economic connectivity and interdependence of capitalist globalization. Marx studied the workings of the labor market. Immigration is a striking example of how labor markets work on a global scale and how countries interrelate. The collapse of capitalism is the inevitable result of its inherent contradictions. Sakharov's criticism of the Soviet Union and the eventual disintegration of the Soviet Union presented an explosion of inherent contradictions in the socialist system, showing that it could not continue to exist sustainably. Marx focused on the correlation between money and commodities. In early 20th century Germany, a phase of hyperinflation demonstrated a crisis in currency correlations. In 1923, Germany, which was suffering from an economic downturn, suffered from rapid inflation and rapid depreciation of banknotes, which caused people to use commodities for exchange. The currency lost its original function and completely collapsed. He points to capitalism's distortion of human creativity. The Industrial Revolution in the United States is an example of capitalism's distortion of creativity. Although it has brought technological progress and a leap in productivity, workers have been exploited in terms of labor conditions and social status for a long time, and creativity has not fully benefited the entire society. The capitalist economy has a profound impact on the social structure. China's reform and opening up is a realistic example of the impact of capitalism on social structure. Since the end of the 20th century, the rise of the market economy has changed China's social structure and created a new wealthy class, but it has also led to an increase in social inequality and the gap between urban and rural areas. Marx proposed the theory of surplus value and explained the source of profit. In the United States at the end of the 19th century, industrial giants such as Rockefeller accumulated huge wealth through monopoly formation and the use of surplus value theory. This highlights the huge profits made by a few in capitalism by expropriating the surplus value created by workers' labor. The historical development of capitalism is the history of class struggle. The October Revolution in Russia was an important node in the class struggle in the historical development of capitalism. In 1917, workers and peasants overthrew the Tsarist system, marking the beginning of socialist practice and demonstrating the historical role of class struggle emphasized by Marx. Marx analyzed the economic cycle of capitalism. The Wall Street stock market crash of 1929 is a typical event of the crisis of the capitalist business cycle. The crisis triggered the Great Depression, which had long-lasting consequences for the global economy and highlighted the economic fluctuations inherent in capitalism. He discussed the position of laborers in the relations of production. South Africa's apartheid policy, the Apartheid system, is an egregious example of the unequal status of labor in production relations. Black workers were denied basic rights and enforced labor systems that marginalized them in the social structure. The crisis of capitalism prompts questioning of social institutions. The global wave of student protests in 1968 demonstrated the younger generation's questioning of the capitalist system. During this year, student groups around the world took to the streets to question social systems and express their desire for a more just society. Marx revealed the law of value in capitalist economy. Japan's highly industrialized process is a practical manifestation of the law of value in a capitalist economy. By improving production efficiency and technological innovation, Japan has successfully established one of the world's largest export economies, highlighting the guiding role of the law of value in economic development. The global expansion of capitalism gave rise to the phenomenon of imperialism. European colonialism at the end of the 19th century was an example of the global expansion of capitalism. Major countries are rushing to establish colonies in Africa and Asia in pursuit of resources and markets, highlighting the phenomenon of imperialism driven by capitalist economies. Marx focused on the geopolitical implications of capitalism. The Cold War period between the United States and the Soviet Union was an example of the geopolitical impact of capitalism. The clash of ideologies and economic systems between the two superpowers has led to political and military competition on a global scale, highlighting the geopolitical impact of capitalism. There is economic alienation and social alienation in capitalist society. The lost decade after Japan's economic bubble burst is an example of economic alienation and social alienation in capitalist society. The economic downturn has led to a surge in unemployment and social instability, highlighting the economic and social alienation inherent in the capitalist system. Marx provided the theoretical basis for the liberation of workers. The union movement in the United States is a practical struggle for labor emancipation. At the beginning of the 20th century, workers organized to fight for better wages and working conditions, and fought for a series of legal and social changes for labor rights. 49. The essential issue of capitalist economy is the nature of production relations, China's reform, and opening up. The transition from a planned economy to a market economy changed production relations and promoted rapid economic growth. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to Positivity Channel. See you next time.